Welcome everybody to this webinar organized by DoctorateHub. Today we will be talking about annotated bibliography or annotated bibliographies. I hope I will be able to help you to understand some things. As I have just mentioned, you are always welcome to ask questions. Just come with a question. You can always cut in. It's not bothering us, I guess the others as well. So let us really have an interactive session. So everybody, welcome to this stage. And I hope that this stage of your, is it proposal, is it, as I said, any part of your thesis journey, as I mentioned, actually the annotated bibliography can help you actually in any stage. So I don't know, have you ever heard about it or you haven't? I hope I will not be repeating too much things you have already known. I hope most of the things will be kind of new and definitely useful. I'll try to go as slowly as possible. And as I said, repeat some things once or twice, some of them even 3 times, just in order that we will be kind of trying to understand everything. And if I'm going too fast or whatever it is, if something is actually not clear, just please come and ask questions. I guess that's the only way how we can actually really do it. Okay, so the general kind of learning outcome idea was that we are trying to kind of establish a link to annotated bibliographies, that you understand how you can actually use them in preparing a literature review. But as I said, it is not just in the phase of preparing the literature review. It is useful in any stage of your journey, because you have actually, first of all, as you many said, you are trying now to find some literature in order to be able to prepare your proposal. Whenever you will be then moving forward, you will be trying to conceptualize everything. So you will need actually kind of good literature to support your study at that stage. Then we'll be moving forward probably towards a literature review. And then we will have to kind of justify, support the research questions. And further, we'll have to deal with the framework. After the framework, you'll be probably talking something about or writing something about hypotheses and propositions and so on and so on. So what I want to say is actually you have to actually understand and know everything about the literature which is dealing with your research area, with your topic. So maybe I just prepared 2 slides about a literature review. What is it, or how can we actually relate that to annotated bibliography? As you know, I will ask this question: what is a literature review? Once again, and actually you have heard it probably many times during your coursework or even afterwards. I mean, why do we use it? Why do we have it? What is helping us? So I don't know if somebody can give me a good definition of literature review. I would be extremely happy. Is there anybody who would say, who will tell us how actually you see a literature review? Why do you want to use it? How can you use it? Wake up. Oh, we are still shy. Okay, I hope the questions will come. As I said, interactive session, I really expect many questions. That's the idea behind it. Don't just listen to me. Get actually involved and ask the questions you would like to. So the first sentence I have to say is, it is definitely not the same as annotated bibliography. Okay, annotated bibliography is helping you, but literature review is totally something different, as you know. Actually, why do we need it? In a way, we can say it develops an argument. That means you are summarizing the key information from the existing literature. That means it is not just summarizing to understand what is in there, but it goes further. It synthesizes actually all the knowledge which is linked to your topic, and you are trying, as we said, to justify, to support actually your ideas. And finally, I could add maybe critical review or critical thinking, and things like that in there as well. So these are the things which are important, but you need some input into your literature review. And in that stage, annotated bibliography can really help you. What else are we doing actually when we are trying to put together the literature review? It distinguishes what has already been done. That's probably one of the most important things. And following that, we will probably develop actually what needs to be done. And that will be kind of guiding your research. I don't want to start now about research gaps and things like that, but yeah, that is the stage where you are doing exactly that. So you will know, you will understand, you will bring actually, you will include the key developments in the literature from your research area and research topic. The next thing, which is extremely important, is that you will be able to connect the existing literature with your research work. So that's probably one of the most important parts and purposes of a good written literature review, so that you kind of show what is there, what has been done, and what is kind of missing, and which direction you will be able to go, and what is kind of supporting your argument and justifying your ideas and way of research you will be doing. So I sometimes even say it is kind of a framework. So literature review is kind of a framework. You are putting everything together in order to present what has been done, what is kind of missing, and based on that, you will be at the end through the good discussion chapter, adding the missing pieces into this framework. Now, one thing where we sometimes fight with Dr. Andreas, for me, the literature review is about reading, and usually I say, do even some more reading. I always bring that statement to all of our students because that's extremely important. And they know that I'm getting boring for that because I always repeat the same thing, but it is extremely important. And you will never actually start reading, because whenever you are at each of those chapters or levels or stages of your PhD, you will always actually have to understand more and have to get actually more connection to the existing literature. So that's an extremely important message. Once again, use the annotated bibliography in order to kind of understand, in order to pick, in order to select the papers which are really useful for you and which will be actually helping you to move forward with your different chapters. So you will at one point have to produce a bibliography, which will be kind of, let's say, your reading list, your shopping reading list. After you will, because you will build it up, as we said, actually continuously, and you will have it. So the next stage is then that you get actually kind of familiar with this literature. That means with the papers, probably some books, some book chapters or something like that. And after that, that means while you are reading, you will be, or after you have finished reading, you will probably annotate those sources. So what is annotation actually? Annotation means kind of a brief overview or summary of the main points of each of the articles you have read. So that means you have actually here your bibliography, you have selected some of the papers, and while you will be reading those papers, you will be doing some annotations in order to, how should I say, characterize actually this paper and understand whether is it actually useful, good, has the kind of potential to help you in your developing literature review. And it usually goes always in the same way. You will be actually having quite many papers in the beginning, and at one point then you will start focusing more and more towards your actually topic. So that's another stage of literature review where you first grow it, actually then you are familiar with the literature review, and then you can actually start really focusing it towards your area, towards your topic of your PhD research. So in a way, annotation will provide you as we said, first of all, with bibliography, that means with all the different papers you will be reading. And at the same time, it will try to organize you the literature, read literature about your topics. And finally, you will use them in order to be able to support your arguments. So it is kind of helping you to understand, to select the useful ones. And I'll talk a little bit later about different points which are actually useful to you. So let us go now towards the annotated bibliographies and try to explain how it works, what is it first, a little more with 2 or 3 definitions, and after that, how we can use them. So bibliography, I guess that's clear. It's kind of a list of sources, and you have the bibliography actually at the end of every book, at the end of every thesis, at the end of every paper. So it is kind of the list of the papers or any other resources which were used in this document. On the other side, the annotations means kind of a summary, but not just a summary. We are trying to go a little bit farther. We are trying to evaluating actually each of those resources. So finally, if we say what is annotated bibliography, is it kind of a combination of all the sources? Additionally to each of those sources, you will be kind of summarizing the content, as well as you will be evaluating each of the sources regarding the content, regarding the usefulness, regarding the trustworthiness, regarding the potential contribution, and things like that. So another kind of definition, once again, is it a list of citations to books, articles, and documents? And as we said, after you have read it, you will write a short annotation. And as we said, these annotations will be mostly linked to the relevance, to your research accuracy of the source, of the journal, of the author, as well actually of the quality of these sources which you have read. So you will, and I will develop that further, what should be or could be actually part of the annotation. And that's where we're coming now closer and closer, how it should be done and what is kind of the content of the annotations. But first, I would like to say it's extremely important that it is it is written by you. So each annotation, after you have read a paper, should be written by you. That means you're not trying to get somewhere from web or whatsoever to put the things together, but it is extremely important that is actually how you see the paper, how you understand the paper, how you relate to the paper. That's one of the most important things, okay? You go through that, I say you are kind of trying to digest the paper, and based on that, you will be kind of, writing the annotations. So what can be in these annotations? The source, first of all, you will always write a citation, then you start thinking about thinking and understanding, comprehending what is the content. And I will try to help you a little bit how to write it afterwards, but first we can actually just touch some of the things. So what is the source about? Kind of what is it telling us? What are the main topics? How does it relate to your topic? That's one of the important things where you will be evaluating. Is it useful for me? How can I use it? And I will go a little bit further on, relate to different areas. Is it actually possible that you use this, let's say, source in the literature review generally to describe, let's say, your variables or to describe some of your topics? Or can you use it actually maybe rather in the introduction chapter? Or will it be helping you actually in the area of, I don't know, supporting your methodology, for example? Or you can actually even while you're reading, saying, okay, that's interesting. That could be actually used in my discussion chapter. So this is important. So once again, written by you. I don't know if I can stress that actually enough, it is really written by you, how you understand actually that paper. You can then actually go further and think which parts of the paper are relevant, and is it trustworthiness is important as well, or the quality of the journal, the quality of the authors and things like that. As you know, after a while, you will be kind of understanding and seeing, and you have done that probably, you see which group of authors is dealing with your topics. Are these authors publishing actually in quite good journals? You know what are good journals? I mean, we'll talk probably in a few weeks about how to detect or how to understand what is a good journal, and things like that. So these are important areas, because it does not make sense that you are reading everything. You have to read focused, and you have to read actually just the things which are really, really linked to you, to your topics, but on the other side of high quality. And at the end of the evaluation, you can always kind of put your own note on whether do you agree with this argument or not, or whether the other literatures do agree with this argument or not, and that will be kind of helping you in building your argumentation as well. Okay, that's another kind of definition. Reference list with annotations at the end, and based on that, you will have a brief overview about all the topics, and as we said, briefly summarize and assess the value, but I'll go a little bit deeper into that. So let us just, or not, we have to do that. That's extremely important. So why I do kind of like the annotated bibliographies is, if you follow the steps I will show in a minute or two, it really gives you a good overview, and you are kind of, should I say, forced or motivated actually to go through different steps in order to summarize, assess, and reflect on each of those papers. So that means the analysis will be done in a thorough way. So what is the main argument? That will be actually one of the important things. Definitely, you have to understand what's going on. You will write one sentence on that. So what's the main argument? What are the main points? What are the main topics? What topics are covered? So everything about the source in 2 sentences or something like that. So as we said, as I will say, we will be actually trying to be quite short, but really concise. And you will kind of think, is it useful for me? How can I use it? Where can I build it in? Will it contribute to my argument? Will it contribute to my thinking, to development of my framework or something like that? Is it reliable? As we said, extremely important, but I will not lose words today on that. We'll talk at one other point, what are really, let's say, reliable sources. As well as what you can do in this assessment stage is that you compare it to other sources. So in a way you can say it links to that, it justifies that, it supports the other author or something like that, or the other results. So, you know, after a while, after you have done, as I see with my students, after they have done 10, let's say, annotations, they understand how it goes. And after we have discussed them, they see actually the value, and they can use them in a proper way. And at the end, it is the reflection part where we are trying to understand how does it really fit into your research. First, the question is, does it fit or not? And then you're trying actually to understand how does it fit, how helpful it was. And as we said, how can I take it? How can I actually build it in order to justify my ideas and to support my views? So we have said kind of analysis. That means we are analyzing the content of that source. We are using it as organization because, as I said, you can use it in different areas of your thesis. So you can see where it will be kind of contributing to it. And finally, after you will have quite many annotated bibliographies, and you will be understanding actually the content of all those papers, you will be definitely using it and building it into your thesis, kind of say working thesis or kind of progress while you are, doesn't matter, preparing your proposal or any other chapter in your thesis. As well as you will see that some of the papers will be used actually in different areas. Some of them will be used in the literature review, and most of them will be used in literature review discussion as well as in the introduction. So in order to, am I going too fast? Am I going too broad?
Not for me.
Tell me. Yeah, you, I mean, Andreas, I mean, you cannot give me a feedback. That's just unfair. That's just unfair. Is it still okay? Or
okay, good.
Yes, it's making sense.
Okay. So then, but as I said, whenever something goes wrong, or you think that you're getting lost, just please come in. Okay. Thanks. So now I'll bring two different views maybe to help you to put together actually a good or a guidance, let's say, for you to understand how to write annotated bibliography. First of all, here I try to support your understanding and even your writing, that you are kind of using those 8 questions and try to, should I say, answer on each of those questions with a complete sentence, or maybe even better, try to combine 2 or 3 sentences into one statement. So let us go through all those, through these 8 questions, and that, I guess, will give you even a better kind of understanding why are we doing and how are we doing it. So the first 3 questions would be, what is the main or maybe the most significant idea of this journal paper, let's say? What is the author trying to do? So what was the purpose of the paper? And who do you think is the author's intended audience? Okay, that was kind of now the first part where trying to understand the content of it. And now I just give you, that means, as I said, I like it because it's a systematic way of, now I'll be extremely unfair, but I'll say it, of pushing a student that she or he goes through those steps and analyzes the journal paper, let's say, in a structured way. So you really have to kind of develop that, structured way for all of the papers, because that's important, because whenever you are analyzing them through a systematic way, always the same, then actually it is quite a reliable source for you as well to be used in your thinking, justifying, and writing up the thesis. So the first 3 questions. Here we have the first 3 questions, as I mentioned, and here is a short example, how you can write it. For example, Smith, that means that's the author, focuses on the dropping illiteracy levels among school children, categorizing socioeconomic levels, racial groups, and parents' educational background. Okay, that would be probably the first idea. You link that actually here. Then you go to the third one. It is about the intended audience, and you say general audience, okay? Because kind of aiming at general audience, Smith attempts to convince his readers. And that is now the purpose, okay? He's trying to convince his readers that most children do poorly in school because their parents don't work with them in home study sessions. I mean, I brought that because it's quite interesting, especially now, I guess, during the Corona, that will be kind of, expressed many times, and it makes it easier for the schools, but that's something else. Okay, so what I try to say is, based on those 3 questions, you see how we can actually write it. Then we go a little bit further, and we ask another set of questions, the next 2 questions. What parts of the subject does the source emphasize or de-emphasize? That means think about that. And what are the assumptions? So what assumptions does the author make about the topic or audience? And let us go back to the same paper. Kind of, you will be combining these two centers, these two questions or answers on in one sentence, in one statement. So the author emphasizes that, as we said, think about emphasizing that parents need to be more involved in their children's education, and assumes, for example, or hypothesizes, depends on what it is, actually assumes that these parents have the time, the expertise, and the inclination to do so. Okay, so that will be now the second part. And then it comes, as we said, 8 questions will be then the last 3 questions, where you are kind of trying to go a little bit deeper and link it to your research as well. So is there any bias in the source? Are there obvious omissions that seem important to the ideas being discussed? And the last question, does the evidence clearly support the author's main points? And based on that, you could write something as just follows. While Smith data supports his position, his solutions seem to be too simplistic. So here you are kind of critically, let's say, assessing the value, and very general, because he ignores, now you're saying what is kind of the weakness. That means based on your knowledge, what you have already read, and kind of the how is it related to your topic, you can actually do some, let's say, conclusions, because he ignores the busy schedules as well as the attitudes and expectations of some parents. He's just do it, advice, kind of be there and help the kids, be there, does not seem likely to change the situation. Okay, so based on that, you have now putting all those, let's say, answers together, you have quite a good overview over the paper, and you can actually understand it quite well. So now I'll come with the first kind of tips, and then I'll bring once again a little bit a different, similarly described tips, just in order that we will be repeating the same things a little bit later. So combine, write short paragraphs. We see that it should be really short. Do not please do not write essays. Okay, it is about understanding and putting annotations. Short paragraphs or short statements, that's important. Combine the answers where possible. I'll talk a little bit later about the words you can use, and that will be kind of, pushing you into some way of thinking as well. We said 5 to 8 sentences. At one point, I'll say, 150 to 300 words. Usually we are talking about 200 words should be the length of an annotation. You will be using Harvard or APA or any other type, actually, style, which is requested by your university. I'll discuss here alphabetical order. I'm not really a friend of alphabetical order. I'm rather trying to guide my students that they do it in a different way. Usually that they are following the sub-chapters or topics or maybe constructs or maybe independent variables. I guess it makes more sense because then you have those things together. That's the beginning. And afterwards, you can reorganize everything and say, okay, that will be for the introduction, that will be for the literature review, that will be for the, let's say, hypothesis justification, things like that. So it's really up to you. So I'm not really a friend of alphabetical order. Okay, that's now just the technique, double space everything and leave 2 double spaces between the sources. That's kind of how usually we want to see it. And now let us go to another, even a clearer example, how we can actually do that. And I'll just skip maybe a little bit this part because it is repeating what we have just discussed. but for you, just to have a little bit a better structure on the slides and go once again slowly and understand it even better. So the purpose we have kind of discussed, the style format that I'll be touching, and the layout format maybe not that much. Pushing you once again into that you think about the relevance, quality, as well as the usefulness actually for your research. In the style format, I mean, it's clear, I guess I don't have to go into that it is kind of a formal academic writing. Many universities even have this kind of as an assignment in their coursework, but in a way it's a formal academic writing and it follows the general rules for academic writing. So I guess we don't have to spend too much words on that. But what I want to go a little bit farther is here when we are talking about the style format is that we can use just a descriptive way, but for the PhDs and DBAs, we always expect that there's actually just the combination of descriptive as well as evaluative actually part of the annotation. So kind of a critical view on it. And what is now the first part? As we said, the descriptive part, we have mentioned citation before, we have mentioned main focus and purpose, and then the short summary, once again, as we mentioned as well, intended audience, subject covered, major arguments, supported, research methods. We haven't mentioned that. You can include that as well if you want to. You can even code it in a special way that you see, for example, when you write your methodology chapter, that you see which kind of journals were talking about it and what methodologies were taken. Then you can write something about the conclusions and some special, let's say, features of that particular journal. That's the descriptive way, okay? And then, as we said, we should go a little bit farther and touch the evaluative part as well, or critical part. And here you go a little bit farther and you link it actually to your kind of research, okay? So here you can think about usefulness and limitations of the paper, but linked now actually to your research. So reliability of the text, credibility of the author, is it there any weak or poor features? Is there something missing you would kind of think of, because the other literatures have mentioned that? But okay, so once again, that is all helping you, because when you will be writing your literature review chapter, as well as we said, use it for justification of your hypothesis, your, I don't know, support for your research question, things like that. You always have to contrast that. You always have to have that critical way of writing, that critical literature review. And that is helping you. So it's this, let's say, point 4 is really useful actually for you, because based on that, you will be kind of, having a lot of arguments and a lot of, let's say, parts which you will be able actually to use for that. And then the last part of the evaluative part would be how that can actually fit into your research. Okay, so how can you take that? How can you use it actually to really support your research? Now, it's another set of tips. I will not go too deep into that because we have discussed it in many, I guess, discussions even before. Reference list, but I will tell you why I brought it once again. Reference list is clear. As we said, not long, that are not essays, max 300 words, but I usually kind of advise my students to keep it around 200 words. Extremely important. Full sentences, that's important. Write it in full sentences, because don't just use some, I don't know, words or something like that. You will not get it after you have 200 of this or even more. you have to have a clear understanding. You cannot start digging once again. So write full sentences. Another thing which is extremely important, and I will show you a little bit far later on why do I think that is extremely important, is the transition words. You will see how you can actually link these arguments, or how you can link those 8 questions or these 5 actually points together, and it helps you in developing your thinking. Be concise, it's clear, take just the important, significant things and kind of, you know, to the point. It's no need actually to write here too much. Do not repeat information that is just extending the stuff. No need. Okay, arranging, we discussed that. Double spacing, we discussed that as well. So that's not of interest anymore in a way. So this table is what I really like, because that is kind of trying to give you some examples, some support, especially in those, as we said, transition words, okay, for different areas. Okay, as we said, the first 3 are descriptive part. That's descriptive, where we are talking about the citation, so what is the source, and then a short statement about the author's viewpoints. That means what's the purpose and stuff like that. In this article, Johnson reviews. This article examines. The author describes. The author's purpose is to challenge, and things like that. Okay, just try to understand how we write that, and that will really help you. The next part was then a short summary of the theory, research findings, and arguments. So, for example, the main ideas expressed are: support for these claims is documented. The author's research focuses on, and things like that. So, you know, that kind of guides you in a way how you even think and what are you searching for. And then the important part for the PhD and DBA, definitely, the evaluation. So the comments on the usefulness and limitations of the paper regarding your research. So the author provides a strong theoretical, let's say whatever it is, argument or whatsoever. The writing styles considers a range of audiences when we're talking about the audiences, or something like there is a lack of supporting evidence. Okay, so those words, and you can always kind of use these starters in order to guide you and guide actually the statements you are using. And then the last part, we can say this article is useful for the research topic, or it is relevant for this thesis because, and things like that. Okay, so these are kind of important areas. And now what I will kind of, I don't know if I'm kind of trying to help you with another coding, and these are the colors. So I always kind of force the students whenever they are doing this exercise that they use colors, and I will show you why and how I mean that. Okay, let us go now on 2 or 3 examples how really to write that stuff. So kind of keep in mind those 5, let's say, areas, or those 5 of those 8 questions, as well as try to kind of keep in mind that kind of color coding of the text might be helpful as well. So this could be one, for example, one example. And here we go. The first part is, I guess, clear. That is the citation. Then, as we said, kind of the main idea, the main purpose. The article examines the meaning of the words, of the word care within a nursing context. And then we go actually to analyze a little bit, not analyze, to present a little bit deeper, what is it about? And now, once again, those transition words or key or starters in particular, moreover, finally, therefore, and things like that, you know, even if you read just those starting actually words, you will understand how your analysis or how your annotation is flowing in a way. Okay, so that was kind of the idea. The main limitation, once again, could be actually a nice starter. So try to use, and now it will become even more, not just the transition words, but let us go one step further. Try to use, actually, especially in the beginning, it will really help you, kind of this kind of color coding. So that's what I always preach to my students when I say use different colors for the first 10 or 20, let's say 20 annotated bibliographies. Use, for example, red color for the background and credibility of the author, then go with the possible audience, main idea, contents, and usefulness to my topic. And based on that, you will really actually kind of learn and understand how the things are running. And as I said, I have always pushed them into this color coding for the 10, and usually they were understanding in it quite in a way quite happy at the end, because they saw the usefulness of doing annotated bibliography. And some of them developed it even a little bit further. For example, the last semester I was teaching that subject. It was interesting that one student came and said, I would like to do something. Is it possible? And at the end, he added kind of rating. And he said from 0 to 10. And then he wrote at the end, kind of, 8. That was for me an important paper I will be using. If there was actually a, let's say, 3, that was kind of, not so important for me actually. So that was another idea which can be done at the end. So what I want to say is you can theoretically shape how you do it in your way. So you can have 8 questions, you can have 10 questions, you can go actually deeper. That's really up to you, but don't make it too complicated and too long. But it is your work, okay? It is you, how you understand each of these papers. And then just another 2 or 3 slides, and then I'm finally done. I'm actually talking too long. So ways to organize the entries, as we said, alphabetically by author. I'll show you an example. That's not really mine. Chronologically by the date of publication. Maybe that is kind of useful if you go really, maybe in history or something like that, that something is developing, or maybe a methodology is developing, or maybe, I don't know, really research was really kind of strongly linked to different time frames or something like that. But here is it written topically by subject. I could even say typically by subject could be well as good as well. And especially what I mean is what I said before, focus on individual works on distinct topics, especially distinct topics. What I said before, you can really actually talk about your top topics. You can follow the structure, for example, when you are developing your literature review and the subheading or something like that. And you put all that stuff together. And actually, at the end, if you are doing that in a proper way, you have kind of the whole structure of, let's say, literature review, or the structure of the introduction chapter, or any other chapter. Okay, so you have the arguments there, and you can actually then link them, use them, combine them, and support actually your arguments. But the last sentence is important as well. Keep it simple. So do not complicate with all those breakdowns. So as I said, my advice is usually follow actually your framework. In a way, that's kind of the best way of doing it. That would be, for example, as we said, the chronological way, 92, 92, 97, what has been done. On the other side, we have here kind of Ellen, Anderson, so alphabetical order. But as I said, the best is really which kind of serves you and your structure. So the idea was, I don't know if you do have enough time. That's now up to you guys. My idea was in a way that we do actually, or that you write a short annotated bibliography without going into a deep analysis of any of the papers, but you definitely have actually in front of you or in your mind some of the papers which are extremely important, and try to put something like that together, and then we can discuss it if you want to. That was my idea, but as I said, I cannot push you to do that. If we have enough time and energy, we
Thank
can
you,
do
Bastian,
it.
for that. Might I quickly take you off the recording?
Sure.